Great. Lisa, are you in? Hi, everyone. Welcome. We're going to get started in just a little minute. We'll give folks a couple minutes to join. This is being recorded right now. Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us for our Climate Solutions Week webinar, Food and Our Environment, with Erica Williams. We'll do her introduction shortly. Few housekeeping things to take care of before we get started. My name is Hannah Phillips, and I'm the manager of Docents and Interpreters and your host and moderator tonight. We also have Lisa Ligis, who's our Conservation Education Liaison, who'll be helping out as well. Both of us are a member of the St. Louis Zoo's Climate Change Task Force. And before I introduce tonight's climate champion, I have a few housekeeping items to share. First, this webinar is being recorded and will be shared at stlzoo.org/climate change. We are unable to see or hear you due to the numbers of folks on the webinar, but you are more than welcome to put any questions you have in the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. Due to the length of the webinar, we will not be able to get to your questions in this webinar tonight. However, it is being recorded, as are your questions, and we will do our best to answer as many of them as possible on our Climate Solutions Day on September 26th. That session will also be recorded, so if you're unable to attend, you will be able to watch it at a later date, and that will be shared at stlzoo.org/climate change. And finally, please remember to be respectful and courteous to our presenter and each other. Please keep your questions relevant to the presented topic. If someone is unable to follow these protocols, their comment or question will be removed, and they themselves may be removed entirely from the webinar. Now, without further ado, let's begin. Our distinguished presenter tonight is Erica R. Williams. She holds a Bachelor of Arts in Paralegal Studies and an MBA, both from Maryville University. She's currently working on her Ph.D. in Public Policy and Administration from Walden University, with a concentration on policy analysis. She is also a St. Louis Master Gardener. She chairs the MOCAN, which is the Missouri Council on Activity and Nutrition, and a member of the Food Systems Work Group. She's led a peer circle of executive directors of color for Winrock, International's Food Systems Leadership Network. She sits on the Youth Ed and Development Committee for Kids Win, Missouri, and participates in HomeGrown StL. She's also a member of the 9 Network Community Advisory Board and a recipient of several awards from local entities. When she's not working for a red circle, Erica is on the board of directors for Kids Win Missouri and Propel Kitchens, and on the Community Advisory Board for Refuge and Restoration Non-for-Profit Organization in Ferguson, Missouri. And with that, I will moderate the questions and chat with Lisa, and I turn it over to Erica. Thanks for joining us.
Good evening, and thank you so much for having me. Okay, there we go. So there's me, and as the presenter read about my bio, I am the founder and executive director of A Red Circle. And in addition to the professional roles that I hold, I am also a wife and mother of 5, soon to be grandmother of 1. Have to update the slide with that one when she comes. So a little bit about A Red Circle. I founded it in 2017 in North St. Louis County to address racial disparities. And at the time, we weren't exactly sure which disparities we were going to start with because there are so many, but food soon became one of our really hot topics. So our office is located in the business incubator space in the city of Wellston, across the street from the Metrolink station. A Red Circle's mission statement is the holistic betterment of our community, reversing the effects of racism one person and cause at a time. And as you can see, our focus areas, they go in the order of employment, education, holistic living is where the food work ended up coming into policy and the arts. And so now they're all kind of intertwined in food in some aspect. So a little bit about me and why I wanted to get involved in racial equity work. Because as you heard, I had a bachelor's degree in paralegal studies. I was a paralegal in Clayton at the time. But in 2014, when Michael Brown Jr. was killed in Ferguson, it really had me on a personal journey to look into what I was doing in terms of making my community a better place to live for my neighbors and other residents, and how I was using my power, my platform, my education to make that happen. And so throughout that time, I began learning terms like redlining and restricted deed covenants, learned about the Supreme Court case Shelley versus Kramer, learned about how food impacts the environment, and just all kinds of amazing things. And so that really got me on a journey to going down this path towards racial equity in food. So a little bit of the context for St. Louis City and County, because oftentimes when I'm presenting my work, I talk about North County, and not everyone understands what I mean by that. So, St. Louis City is the city and county is the county, but they're the same regionally. But in terms of the government and funding and services, they are very different. And so oftentimes when philanthropic actors are looking for a place to invest, they look into St. Louis City, because on paper, on the screen, St. Louis County looks like it's doing fine. But when St. Louis County gets dollars for economic development, improvements, things of that nature, they typically do improvement in other parts of the county and not North County. And so North County, which is, think of Pine Lawn, Jennings, Dalewood, Ferguson, those areas, it's under-resourced and underfunded. And North County has the most African-American Black population in the county. And so food justice is racial justice. And I don't know if you guys got a chance to read the city's environmental racism report, but a lot of what was discovered there in North City can also apply to North County. So we have healthy food access and segregation. These two illustrations side by side show you the home values of north of Delmar, south of Delmar. And then it shows you where the food deserts are. And this is North County. All of this region has been classified as a food desert by the USDA. The grocery stores are kind of pretty much here in the areas that aren't shaded. And so this is important, to understand why we do some of the work that we do and how the work that we do impacts the environment and climate change when it comes to food. Just a little bit about healthy food access and education. I was just sharing with our host tonight that A Red Circle does work in education in addition to healthy food. These are the school districts that we focus on that are below these lines. And these are English scores and math scores from 2018. And as you can see, all 5 school districts where we focus fall below the median test scores for these for those 2 subjects, math and English, which are like, your foundation, reading and numbers. Being able to understand those and think about the concepts around those are really critical. And we're talking about graduating our future workforce. We really have to increase the understanding of the students in these areas. So this is a stock photo that I found, but it could be any street in North County. It looks very similar to like parts of Natural Bridge or parts of Lindbergh, parts of West Florissant, the busier streets in the region, Hawes Ferry. A lot of fast food, liquor stores, payday loans, and all of that really impacts the environment in terms of, food and the look of the region and the investment that is made into the region. So when I say North County, these are the zip codes that I mean. This is where we focus our work. This zip code 63120 is also in St. Louis City, so are parts of 63136 and 63137. But we focus only on those zip codes that touch the county, St. Louis County, North County. This is where I'm talking about. And what you saw earlier where the food deserts are, that's all of this space. And so this will show you where the grocery stores are within the region and different types of food. We have the most fast food, followed by the most convenience stores, which typically are your dollar stores that sell very processed foods, frozen foods, very little fresh produce. And then followed by that, some restaurants and fast casual places. Then we have grocery stores. We have 24 grocery stores to service about 200,000 plus residents and a few specialty stores. And these are some newspaper headlines that I found in just various, searchings and newspapers. Dollar stores, we talked about the convenience stores, how they're replacing grocery stores. Food scarcity, meaning, actual food, not just the processed food. The supermarkets and how they leave out Black America. When I mentioned that North County is predominantly Black African-American population in St. Louis County. How, we know that last year, we learned how, COVID-19 really impacted the Black community in terms of death and the mortality rate. So some of our healthy food initiatives, got a few pictures here. On the left, that's of our urban farm in the city of Pine Lawn, the North County Agricultural Education Center, where we'll be teaching students all about food and growing food and how growing food and local food impacts the environment. The center was some food bags that we gave out to residents last year. We weren't able to do the traditional outreach, knocking on doors because of the pandemic, but we were able to leave bags of produce on the porches and, let people know that they were outside with some flyers so they could know that we were in their community. And then the picture on the, did I say right, left? The other picture is Mayor Ella Jones, the city of Ferguson, Missouri, and my mom, Louise. They are at the Healthy Community Market where we sell, quote unquote, sell, is at a scale price, fresh produce. So that picture at the top, that's our pavilion at the North County Agricultural Education Center. We're going to be welcoming our first 8th grade class for a school field trip there next month. I'm excited about that. They're from the Brittany Woods Middle School. So they'll get to learn all about planting food and growing food and how local food impacts the environment and the economy. They'll get to learn terms like food deserts and things of that nature. Down here, some lettuce that we grew at the garden this year. It's so delicious. And then we have a smaller garden, the Healthy Flavor Community Garden, where we teach about nutrition and other things. These are just some of our pictures from over the season this year. It was so fun. You know, everything got delayed because of COVID, but I feel like once we actually were able to get started, we were just like a uh, ball out of a cannon, raring to go. So we grew food, we sowed food, we educated about food, and we were really able to share about the impact of food. And we were able to start a new program, which I'll share a little bit about later. So the meat of the topic, food and the environment. This quote came from Earth Day 365. They are currently doing a pilot program all about food waste and helping people to understand the impact that food waste has on the environment. According to worldwildlife.org, food waste is an environmental concern because when we waste the food, we have wasted the water and the energy that it takes to grow, harvest, transport, and package it. But then also wasted food goes to the landfill if you're not composting, which we teach about composting, and it rots and it produces methane, which is a greenhouse gas. And so oftentimes, a lot of the greenhouse gases and greenhouse gas emissions come from food waste. And sometimes, you know, you buy too much, you put too much on your plate, you're cooking with fresh produce and you have a stalk left over and you put it in the trash instead of composting it. That really increases the amount of food waste. And so there are different ways to compost. You can take it to a local garden that has a compost. You can do it at home, but I recommend, you know, looking into the various systems that will work for you because you don't want mice and things of that nature. So if you compost at home, you know, do some research on the ways that can really help you compost it. You want to keep some soil nearby so you can keep the food covered. You want to mix it in with your dry leaves and grass clippings and things of that nature, not just throw the food out there because like I said, you'll get mice and other critters and you don't want that at your house. So as part of our food policy work, we are working on something called, we're waiting for a grant to be issued so that we can really focus on this program about illegal dumping. So this is a Shop and Save that was a full service grocery store in North County. It closed in November 2018. It's still sitting empty. And we supported a bill with State Rep Ian Mackey to allow companies that wanted to open grocery stores in abandoned grocery stores in food deserts, so this store would fit the bill, to get a credit off of their state income tax the next year. And it did not pass, but what began happening while we were waiting for that, you know, bill, even though, you know, things happened in Jeff City, so the bill didn't really get much movement. But what was happening is the site became a space for illegal dumping. And house flippers and haulers and other folks would just come and leave abandoned couches and plumbing and toilets and bathtubs and all kinds of crazy stuff on the parking lot behind this building. And so you couldn't see it from the street, but if you live in the neighborhood and you drive past it on the side street that you can kind of see back there, you could see the stuff. So I took some pictures of it and sent it to our lawmakers and the mayor of that area, Moline Acres, so that we could get the owner to come and clean it up and begin to install some cameras and things of that nature so that we could catch the illegal dumpers and find them appropriately and, you know, make sure that they were dumping the items in the appropriate places. But that, you know, these types of buildings that just sit empty and abandoned, they become an environmental hazard to neighborhoods that are low income, that are predominantly African American. And the little cities don't have really the resources to deal with them. And also, because St. Louis County is rather fragmented, there isn't one centralized location where people can call in to talk about illegal dumping. In the city, you can call in this number, and they'll do whatever they do. But in St. Louis County, if it's not unincorporated St. Louis County, you have to call the specific municipality. And like I said, this one was Moline Acres. She was able to get in touch with the owner who came and cleaned it up, but that's the kind of stuff that she would then have to continue to do if the dumpers keep dumping on it. So we're really hoping to, get that bill passed. But in addition to that bill, which hasn't gotten passed yet, we were able to help support the Missouri Food Security Task Force, which was passed into law. Yay. And I was actually nominated to serve on that task force. So I'll find out either later this year or next year if I am chosen. And then we're also supporting some local legislation around healthier kids' beverages and kids' meals. So that's sort of our food policy work, and that's the bulk of the work that goes into the environmental aspect of food. In addition to the policy work, we have a new program. I mentioned earlier that we launched a new program this year. This is called Meals with Rescued Food. When the pandemic hit and groups began to get a lot of fresh produce from the government, from local farmers, from just all different places. And it was great, but it was also kind of overwhelming because what began to happen is people were getting way more produce than they could handle. And in areas like ours that are food deserts, that are food swamps, meaning areas that have a high concentration of unhealthy food, for decades and generations, neighborhoods like those, the residents aren't necessarily used to cooking with fresh produce. And so you can't just give a box of fresh produce to people and expect them to just be like, yay, fresh produce, I'm going to cook all these great meals with them. No, a lot of things went unwanted, or a lot of things there were surplus. And so we began to find that, there was a lot of good food that began to get wasted. And we already talked about how bad food waste is. So we didn't want to, continue to waste food. And so what myself and a chef partner of mine, he roasted these tomatoes you see on the screen. We came up with a program called Meals with Rescued Food. And so when we, talk to the food pantries and other folks that have food that they can't use, that they know they're going to have to get rid of, we try to get them before they go bad, before the food goes bad. And so we chopped up some butternut squash already. We chopped it up and we peeled it, chopped it, put it in pan. So now it's in the freezer. We roasted some tomatoes. We've got some asparagus and some mushrooms. We'll be getting some green beans soon. So all these types of things that we're getting. And what we're going to do is we're going to make pans of soup that's going to be used for the homeless this winter. So we support a group in Ferguson called 643 Warm. It's a collection of churches in Ferguson that house the homeless when the temperature gets low. And so we'll have these pans of soup ready to go for the folks. They're going to be prepared in, certified kitchens. I'm Safe Serve certified. Chef is Safe Serve. His name is Robert Roussan, by the way. I call him Chef. But he's Safe Serve certified. And so they're going to be prepared with, all the safety precautions in mind. And they'll be able to pass any type of inspection. But, that's a win-win because we're saving food from being thrown into the landfill. And we're also going to be feeding people. And we're not having to spend too much money to do this because we already have the food and we're going to use, one of the local church kitchens. And so that's one of our really, I call it ingenuitive programming that we came up with, because we really want to make sure that we're impacting the earth in a positive way, in addition to food waste and dumping, growing food, where you live also helps the environment because it doesn't have to travel as far. We grow food at the Healthy Flavor Community Garden that I mentioned earlier, and then we sell it right there. And we process it right there. We have a wash station We have refrigeration, we have everything right there. And so that eliminates the truck pollution that has to, take place when you're bringing food from place to place. It also helps to make sure the foods are the most nutritious as possible because we don't have to harvest them to put them on a truck to get them to the store so that they're continuing to ripen in the truck. And when they get to the store, they're ripe and we get them to the people. And so, if we can talk to people about growing food more locally, about transporting food fewer miles, and about investing in local areas that are food swamps, that are food deserts to grow food, that really impacts the environment in a positive way. So what are our long-term goals? A Red Circle, it's a fairly new nonprofit organization. We just turned 4 this year in March. We've grown from an organization of 1, me, to an organization of, I think, 10. It's quite fascinating. But we're all local, North County, St. Louis County folks who just really care about the community, care about the environment, and we want to help make, positive changes. One way we can do that is by keeping the food system local. Production, you see the circle at the top. Like I said, at the market, at the garden, we grow it, harvest it, pack it right there. Processing, it's processed right there. And if we have to take it much further, we don't take it more than like 20 minutes to process it. And then we're able to market it, to the neighbors, to the residents, which also impacts the environment. One thing that we noticed when we first built out our garden is the area had a lot of litter, like a lot of litter. There's a bus stop right outside of our garden and another bus stop across the street. And there was a trash can at the bus stop by the garden, but there wasn't one across the street. But when we came in and began to grow food and plant flowers and install other artistic elements within the garden, when they began to see us working in the space to bring good food and beauty and a safe place for kids and the elderly to hang out and garden together, they began making a more conscious effort to put trash in the trash cans. And the village of Riverview, where the garden is, put a second trash can across the street. So that helped to really decrease the litter that was at the bus stops. So that's why, these indirect measures that good food can bring to the environment are huge, because they also bring joy and beauty to the region, and they show people in the region, in a region that has been disinvested in for so long, that someone does care about this space. Someone does care about where you live, and as such, you can too. And so that makes a huge difference. Back to the market. One of the things we'll be working on next year is opening a local community-owned market, because we know that, that empty shop and save used to feed a lot of people. And when that shop and save left, that really created a vacuum in that region. It created a hole. And so instead of, waiting for someone else to come in and invest in our area, we're going to just do it. We're just going to just do it and work on getting the backing and the funding and do the research and the logistics and the, learning about wholesale purchasing and procurement and all that fancy stuff. We're just going to do it. Preparing good food, we can teach the residents how to compost so that when they're chopping up the fresh broccoli, they don't want to use some of the bigger stalks. When they're peeling the collard leaves off the greens, we can teach them how to compost, and that will also help to cut down on food waste. And finally, nutrient recycling and waste recovery. We have a super, super cool way of growing food at the North County Agricultural Education Center that uses less water than traditional growing methods. We do with wood chips, and wood chips are really good for like holding in moisture, holding in water. And when you pile the wood chips alongside the garden bed, you don't have to water as often, because when it rains, the wood chips soak up the rain and they continue to kind of like feed the soil. So we grew over 100 pounds of potatoes this year at the urban farm at the North County Agricultural Education Center. And we didn't water one time. We let the rain fall and water those beds and the wood chips. And so, we'll be able to teach youth that come to the urban farm, to the North County Agricultural Education Center, about those different ways of growing food and saving water and really protecting our environment. So we want to create jobs. I kind of, it sounds like I'm always saying we're waiting for something, but we're also waiting for a USDA grant to create a job training network, because when you're in a region that's a food desert, it's also a jobs desert. Disinvestment impacts so many other areas, and oftentimes it's hard for people in the area to find good jobs because the jobs are outside of where they live. And so that's transportation time and costs and buses and changing buses and transferring and all this kind of stuff. So we want to create jobs right in North County using the food system. We want to inspire healthier living. We want to improve the environment, like I talked about earlier, through reduction of food waste. We want to improve the physical health of our residents, improve the economic health, because we know that good jobs brings the economy, and it gets people spending and getting the money moving locally. And then we want to inspire other communities like ours, small, disinvested, African American, and just really, plant the seed so that people can see all the good things that are happening. All right, so a couple of other programs that we launched this year in the food system. One is our Food and Justice Fellowship. We were able to, actually, we're still in the fellowship. We're in the last 3 months of the fellowship, the business and entrepreneurship phase. But the first 3 months were growing food and STEM. The next 3 months, the first 3 months were equity and justice. And then the next 3 months were growing food and STEM. And now we're in the business and entrepreneurship phase. It's a paid fellowship for youth 19 to 26. They can be in college or not in college, as long as they live in North County or connected to North County in some way, and they have an interest in improving the food system from within. They can be a Food and Justice Fellow. And then we launched the Art in the Garden, because as if you can recall, one of our focus areas is the arts. And when you're growing food and doing other things, you can make the space beautiful. This is one of the plaques that we have hanging up on one of the trees in the garden. We have other fun little things there, and we're going to keep adding to it every year. And so when you come and get your food and see the garden, you'll also get a chance to see some local art, some exhibits and things of that nature, because we don't have museums, and people aren't necessarily going to go to the museums in Forest Park, but they will come to the garden and they'll get to see the fun stuff. And so we did one program so far at the Healthy Flavor Community Garden. We wanted to do one at the North County Agricultural Education Center, but it was really hot this summer, and so we had to keep postponing it. So we might do something this fall. If not, we'll be able to do something next year in the spring before it gets too hot. But we are going to be growing at the North County Agricultural Education Center some native flowers and berries and other things. So we'll be able to do some art in terms of natural landscaping. Planting native flowers really helps, because it's used to the climate, it's used to the soil. And so they'll grow, they'll be hardy, they'll be, tolerant of our Missouri's lovely ever-changing, weather patterns. And also at the North County Agricultural Education Center, we're planning on having bees, because bees, really help enrich the soil. They help with pollination and pollinators, and having local honey helps with health and allergies and things of that nature. So a little bit about the Good Food Movement. This is an initiative that we started last year, pre-COVID. We did not realize that a global pandemic was on the rise. We were able to go on a retreat to just kind of meet and greet and learn who is doing the work in this space, so that we can better collaborate and grow our collective power and do some work together. It's Black and Indigenous, and anyone else who wants to join, who's an ally of Black and Indigenous folks in North County and North City. We're all food justice leaders on various levels. Some people grow, some people advocate for policy, some people do it all. If you want to be a member, you can be a member. And the St. Louis Food Policy Coalition is one of our supporters also. So here's some of the member logos. There's a red circle, me, and then we have Solidarity Economy, Growing Food, Growing People, United People. There's Chef Robert Ursan. He's the chef who did those tomatoes. He'll be working with me on the food, Meals with Rescued Food, Fit and Food Connection, Rustic Roots, Ujima, Heru Urban Farming, and United People. And we're always looking for more members. You know, if you want to, like I said, help improve North County and North City's food system, you are welcome to join this good food movement. So, sometimes I use this presentation for other events. So this is the how you can help slide. I decided to keep it in here for tonight just because, you know, you're a great audience. So I'm sure you want to get involved, and otherwise you wouldn't be here. So you can visit our website at aredcircle.org. Sign up for our newsletter. It only comes out 4 times a year. And then every once in a while, there'll be some special emails, but I don't inundate you with emails. You can talk to your neighbors and friends and colleagues about racism and how that impacts, you know, food and the environment and climate, not just, you know, the attitudes and things, but how the actions really impact those issues. You can donate to a Red Circle or to other racial equity organizations working on the environment. And you can diversify your feed, meaning, you know, who you follow, who you listen to, who you pay attention to, just so that you can learn different aspects and concepts from folks. And then on the website is what the pages will look like. That's the one-time donation, monthly donation, and newsletter sign up. And this little girl enjoying her peach is one of my favorite quotes. It says, "A well-nourished body and brain are better able to withstand ongoing stress and recover from illness." And, you know, as I talked about with the pandemic and COVID-19, you know, one of the comorbidities was, you know, the diet, you know, folks with diabetes, folks with high blood pressure. And a lot of that can be traced back to the food. And, you know, the food that someone eats can be traced back to what is available, what's accessible, what's affordable. So that's why we're really looking to improve our food system. So I want to say thank you. And there's my contact information.
Thank you, Erica. This was really amazing. And I'm following you now on the Twitter, which I'm really excited for.
Awesome.
There's one comment in the chat of just, again, a big thank you for the work that you're doing. This is really incredible and really important. Your presentation was excellent. I encourage everyone here to join us on Sunday, September 26th at 5:30. You can register for that link at stlzoo.org/climate change. I'm going to leave this open for folks to post any questions to the Q&A in the next 5 minutes, which we will save and address on Sunday, as Erica will be one of our panelists. That will also be recorded and again posted on the stlzoo.org/climate change. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, everyone. And thanks again for joining us. Great work, Erica.
Thank you so much. Have a great night. All right. So am I good to go?
Yeah.
All right.
Leave the chat open just for a minute to give people some questions and then we're done. But thank you so much for spending your evening with us. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye. All right. Doesn't look like there's any questions. So Lisa, I will see you on Sunday.
Have a good one. Thank you.